Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves.
Today, we're zeroing in on a story that really sets the stage for where things are headed in the real estate sector. We're talking about a moment where two giants decide to become one.
Exactly. And our goal today is to go past that headline about the merger between Compass, that's ticker CCOMP, and Anywhere, real estate ticker HOUS. We really want to look at the market's reaction and, more importantly, figure out which companies are now in a better position and which ones are, well, suddenly facing a lot more pressure.
And the news is solid. Shareholders from both Compass and Anywhere Real Estate have officially approved the all-stock merger. It looks like the deal is set to close this Friday.
Right. And that date is the culmination of a pretty long process.
A very long process.
I mean, the last real hurdle was cleared just earlier this month, right?
Yeah.
When the antitrust waiting period expired.
That was the final green light they needed. It cleared the path for this closing and overnight creates one of the biggest residential brokerages in the country.
And this isn't just about two similar companies joining forces. It's about creating a certain level of scale that really forces every other company in the industry to take a hard look at their own strategy.
That's the core of it. When an entity this large is formed, the whole competitive map gets redrawn almost instantly. And so investors, traders, they're all looking for the angles. Who benefits? Who's now vulnerable?
Okay, so let's start there. Let's break down the actual event. We're talking about an all-stock merger, which, seems like a deliberate choice to keep cash spending down.
It is, and it received that definitive yes from shareholders of both Compass, COMP, and Anywhere Real Estate, HOUS.
And the timeline is confirmed. This Friday is closing day.
Yes, and that expiration of the antitrust waiting period was so critical because it meant the immediate path forward was, well, it was clear. It lets them get started on the really messy work, the integration, without any more delays.
So let's focus on this new entity. Once the deal closes, we have this one unified operation that is immediately in the top tier of U.S. residential brokerages.
Right.
When we say scale, what are we really talking about here?
You're talking about hundreds of thousands of agents. You're talking about a footprint that covers almost every major city in the U.S. and a transaction volume that can actually move the needle on national housing stats.
Okay, so the market is paying close attention.
Yeah.
Why? What are the main drivers here?
I'd say there are three main reasons. The first and the most obvious one is just scale. This combined size creates an immense amount of leverage.
Leverage in what way?
Think about the agent network and the listing footprint combined. It almost becomes the default channel for real estate activity in the country. And that leverage translates directly into power when you're negotiating, say, a tech contract or buying ads.
But scale is only as good as the efficiency of the machine, right? Which brings us to the second driver you mentioned, synergies.
Exactly. The whole financial argument for this merger is built on the idea that by combining these two massive organizations, you can eliminate a ton of overlap.
What kind of overlap are we talking about?
Redundancies in back office payroll, HR, accounting, and the really big one duplicate technology platforms. The promise here is a major reduction in costs over the next 2 or 3 years.
That promise, though, always seems to come with a catch.
It does. It comes with a massive asterisk, which is integration risk. And it's very, very real.
Okay.
You're not just combining two balance sheets. You're trying to merge two different corporate cultures, two huge proprietary tech stacks, and two very large, often competitive groups of agents.
And if that integration is clumsy?
If it's clumsy or if it just creates dissatisfaction among the agents, then all those cost savings you were hoping for can get eaten up by transition problems, operational slowdowns, and the worst case scenario, agents leaving.
That's a point that the market often seems to just brush past in the excitement about cutting costs. So what's the evidence that CCOMP and HOUS won't fall into that trap? The one where the transition actually ends up costing more than it saves.
That is the big debate right now. The leadership team says they've already mapped out clear plans, especially for moving away from some of the older legacy tech that HOUS relies on.
And moving on to what?
Onto the more modern cloud-based platform that Compass developed. But look, the proof will only be in the numbers. We'll see it in the quarterly agent retention metrics and the actual drop in administrative costs after a year. For now, it's a projection. It requires them to execute perfectly.
And perfect execution is, well, it's rare. Okay, what's the third driver the market is watching?
Regulation. Even though that antitrust waiting period is over, the sheer size of this new company has already started, political conversations and some calls for a closer look down the road.
Right. The regulatory mood right now is pretty sensitive to this kind of vertical integration.
It is. The initial merger got the okay under the current rules, but the future focus won't be on whether they control too many agents. It'll be on whether they use that brokerage dominance to sort of force consumers into using their other businesses, title, mortgage, insurance.
So even with the deal closing this Friday, we have to keep an eye out for headlines about potential scrutiny from, say, the Department of Justice or the FTC.
Precisely. If, for example, the FTC decides to review how they bundle their ancillary services, arguing it restricts competition in those other markets, that could bring a lot of uncertainty back into the stock performance for both CCO-MP and HOUS.
So the initial clearance is more of a starting gun than a finish line for the regulators.
Exactly. The oversight is just beginning.
All right, let's shift focus to who benefits right away from this. We'll start with the merged company itself. If they can manage that integration risk, what's the real upside for Compass and Anywhere Real Estate?
Well, the entire investment case is built around that idea of scale creating financial leverage for the combined tickers, COMP and HOUS. The market is basically pricing in the expectation of some very specific, quantifiable benefits that should make them more profitable on every single transaction.
Okay, let's get into those concrete advantages.
Yeah.
The first one you mentioned is stronger negotiating power.
Right. This is where their size becomes a real weapon. Think about all the costs of running a brokerage. You have software licenses, mapping services, access to national listing data, huge contracts with digital ad platforms.
And before, COMP and HOUS were negotiating those deals separately.
Separately. Now, they walk into those negotiations as one single massive customer. They could represent, let's say, 15% of the entire national residential listing volume.
That kind of market presence means they can start setting the terms, not just accepting them.
That's it, exactly. When you're that big, you become essential to your vendor's business. They can demand and get much better terms, better pricing from providers like Google or even Zillow as an advertiser. This ability to just lower their costs per agent gives them a margin advantage that smaller competitors simply can't get.
And that better purchasing power makes every single agent under their roof more efficient. Okay, what about the second benefit? Attracting talent, a better recruiting pitch.
A brokerage is nothing without its agents. You live and die by retaining and attracting the top producers. And this new merged company has a much stronger value proposition now.
How so?
Well, they can offer a wider geographic network, which means more cross-market referral opportunities for agents. They have deeper technology resources, assuming the new tech stack works well, and just a brand with much more national visibility.
So for an agent, it means more tools, better support, maybe higher quality leads. That would make it very difficult for a mid-sized brokerage to compete for the top talent.
And it all ties back to efficiency. The new company can offer centralized training, combine data analytics on market trends, a bigger pool of shared resources. It's not just about offering a higher commission split. It's about offering a platform that makes an agent more productive. That's a much stickier retention strategy.
And that brings us to the third point, which really gets to the heart of the synergy argument: cost savings. This is about combining tech platforms and streamlining operations.
Yeah, to be more specific on the tech stack, large brokerages use these complex systems, right? Like ERP systems for finance and CRM platforms for tracking clients and leads.
Right.
If EDMP and HOUS were both paying millions a year in licensing fees for two separate platforms and paying huge salaries for the teams to support them, migrating to one single optimized platform eliminates the cost of the redundant one and lets them cut a lot of overhead staff.
So you're talking about getting rid of millions in fixed fees and hundreds of administrative jobs. If they pull that off, it goes straight to the bottom line. It validates the whole merger.
That's the plan. The goal is to create a machine where the operational cost per agent is lower than the industry average, while their access to leads and tech keeps agent productivity high. That creates a loop, an advantage that's very hard for smaller, less efficient rivals to fight against.
But the market movements here go beyond just the brokerage itself. Let's look at the next group of winners, the affiliated service providers, the companies that benefit from that much bigger transaction funnel.
This is the vertical integration play. It's so important. The brokerage's success isn't just measured in commissions anymore. It's in their ability to monetize the entire home sale process. Let's start with title and closing services.
Title insurance, closing services. These are required for every transaction. So how does the mega brokerage turn its scale into more revenue for its title partners?
It all comes down to something called the attach rate. If the merged brokerage can successfully steer more of its transactions, say they're aiming for 50 or 60%, through its own affiliated title and closing workflow, then those title insurers get a huge boost in order volume without spending a dime on marketing.
Can you explain attach rate a bit more simply? How does that actually work for the consumer?
Sure. Think of it like when your cable company tries to bundle services. You sign up for internet, and they immediately offer you TV and phone. It's similar here. When a co-MP or HOUS agent closes a deal, the easiest path is often the affiliated title company. If the agent is incentivized or the process is just super smooth technologically, the client gets attached to that preferred provider.
Okay.
And capturing that title revenue, which can be, 20 to 30% of the total revenue from a closing, dramatically increases the profit for the whole ecosystem.
So the idea is to make the in-house option the most convenient, the most frictionless choice. So which companies are set up to gain from this?
The two big names in this space that could benefit from a better attach rate from CMP and HOUS are Fidelity National Financial, ticker FNF, and First American Financial, FAF. These are major title underwriters. A preferred relationship with the new brokerage means a massive, predictable stream of business for them, especially in a slow market.
That's a huge, stable revenue source if they can lock it in.
Oh.
Okay, next up, purchase mortgage platforms.
It's a very similar mechanism. A bigger brokerage ecosystem means a wider, deeper pool of qualified buyers to direct toward preferred lenders. It essentially becomes a centralized lead generation machine for purchase mortgages.
So the agents are basically trained to introduce that preferred mortgage partner as early as possible.
Precisely. Scale gives the brokerage the power to standardize that referral process. When you have tens of thousands of agents all closing deals under one roof, the ability to introduce a specific mortgage partner right at that moment of high intent is it's maximized. It's very efficient, low-cost customer acquisition for the lender.
But this upside depends on a major external factor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The health of the housing market itself.
Oh, absolutely. The distribution funnel is bigger, but if the total number of transactions is still low because of high interest rates or low inventory, then a bigger funnel is just capturing a small number of deals more efficiently. It doesn't create new buyers.
Right.
The success here is tied to an improvement in overall housing activity. That would allow the scale to really have its maximum effect.
So the framework for capturing business is better, but the total market size still needs interest rates to come down and inventory to go up. So which mortgage companies are we watching?
The ones positioned to gain are the platforms that are really focused on purchase originations, not refinancing. So key names there would be Rocket Companies, ticker RKT, and UWM Holdings, ticker UWMC. Their performance, linked to this merger, depends on both the successful integration of that brokerage funnel and an eventual recovery in housing volume. They're betting on that long-term partnership.
Okay, so we've covered the upside for the new company and its partners. Now let's flip it around. Who is most vulnerable in this new landscape? Let's start with the direct competitors, the other residential brokerages.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. The creation of this unified, highly scaled company puts competitors in a tough spot. Especially in a slow market like this one, it becomes a real test of survival.
The threat comes from a few different angles, but it seems to center on operational costs and keeping their talent.
It does. The first major area of pressure is agent recruiting.
Right. Competing for top agents against a company with the combined resources of Kiko, MP, and HOUS has to be a lot harder now. What can the new mega brokerage offer that others can't easily match?
They can offer the promise of higher productivity. They have combined data sets for better lead targeting, superior tech from their cost savings, and just a bigger network that leads to more referrals. Rivals now have to spend more aggressively on signing bonuses, on developing their own tech all while their margins are already tight.
And that pressure on spending leads right into the second point. Agent splits. The commission percentage an agent keeps.
Right. Since the new company theoretically has a lower cost base, assuming the synergies work out, they have more flexibility on their commission structures. Let's take an example.
Okay.
If a rival brokerage operates on an 80-20 split, 80% to the agent, 20 to the firm, the new mega brokerage might be able to profitably offer an 85-15 split just because their overhead per agent is so much lower.
And that 5% difference is massive for a high-producing agent. It basically forces competitors to either match that split, which crushes their margins, or they risk losing their best people.
It creates a domino effect. If your top producers leave, the remaining agents lose the benefit of that network, which could lead to even more of them leaving. Competitors get forced into a race on commission splits that only the lowest cost provider can win in the long run.
And what about the third area of pressure? Marketing efficiency. Attracting buyers and sellers costs a ton of money.
Marketing efficiency is all about getting the best return on every dollar you spend.
Mm.
The combined company can use its proprietary data on a much wider scale for better ad targeting, and they can negotiate much better bulk ad rates because they're buying so much media.
So their competitors have to spend more just to get the same level of visibility.
Often, yeah. They might have to spend 30 or 40% more just to generate the same quality of leads. It's a tough position to be in.
This sounds like a really difficult environment, especially for brokerages with high-cost models or those that rely heavily on outside-led sources.
It's amplified by the slow transaction volume we're seeing right now. In a slow market, every single deal matters, and you have to be disciplined. So brokerages like XP World Holdings, that's EXPI, and Remax Holdings, RMAX, are navigating this squeeze.
How does it affect them specifically?
Well, EXPI, with its cloud-based model, is all about recruiting, and now they have to compete against a much larger network. Remax, which uses a franchise model, faces challenges in standardizing costs and efficiency across its network to compete with the unified scale of COMP and HOUS.
So EXPI and RMAX are facing this dual threat, competing for agents while also fighting higher marketing costs, all against a new competitor that's designed for efficiency in a down market.
And the competition doesn't stop with other brokerages. This merger also creates a lot of external pressure on the tech companies and marketplaces that depend on real estate for their revenue.
Right now we're moving into the territory of the real estate portals and marketplaces. Companies like Zillow Group, ticker Z, and CoStar Group, CSGP. Their whole model relies on brokers and agents paying for ads.
The mechanism here is pure leverage. The mega brokerage can now really play hardball with its vendors. The combined entity is now essential for Zillow's relevance to consumers. If all of the COMP and HOUS inventory were suddenly gone or just poorly featured, Zillow's value to homebuyers would drop immediately.
That gives the brokerage a ton of negotiating power. So how do they use that to put the squeeze on Zillow and CoStar?
Two main ways. First, they can just push for much lower ad prices or higher referral fees. They can basically say, our inventory is non-negotiable, give us better rates. That shrinks the portal's profit margins.
And the second way?
The second, and this is more damaging long-term, is they can start shifting their marketing budget away from third-party portals and toward their own internal channels, their own websites and apps.
If KMP and HOUS can successfully drive leads through their own digital front door, that's revenue that Zillow and CoStar just lose completely.
And that directly pressures the portal's take rates. The take rate is just the percentage of revenue a portal gets from a transaction or an ad. If a brokerage can demand a lower ad price or a smaller referral fee, the portal's revenue per lead goes down. For Zillow, whose business is built on high-multiple agent ads, this consolidated buying power is a real headwind.
And what about CoStar, CSGP?
Right.
They're trying to grow their residential business.
Right. CoStar is trying to gain ground on Zillow. But if the two biggest brokerages combine and decide to prioritize their own listing distribution or just favor a path that doesn't include CoStar, it makes that barrier to entry for CSGP even higher. Their fight for consumer attention just got more expensive.
Okay, let's broaden this out to the general lead generation marketplaces. Companies like Angie, ticker ANGI, and LendingTree, T-Tree.
These companies make money from different parts of the home ownership process beyond just the home search. The pressure here is all about centralization. It's about the brokerage capturing the entire customer journey.
How so?
If the merged brokerage can successfully guide its clients to its own affiliated partners for everything, title, mortgage, insurance, even home repairs, then these third-party lead generators get cut out of the loop entirely.
Can you walk me through a scenario of how that would work?
Sure. Imagine you just bought a home through this new mega brokerage. Before you even think about going to Google to search for a plumber or a moving company, your agent hands you a pre-vetted list of service providers that are part of the brokerage's ecosystem.
So you're guided right into their controlled funnel.
Exactly. Meanwhile, LendingTree is spending money on ads, trying to find a customer who has already been sent directly to RKT or EWMC by their agent.
That containment of the customer makes the economics much tougher for those external marketplaces.
That's it. ANGI and Tree now have to spend a lot more on advertising to find clients who are already being served efficiently by the brokerage's captive system. Their cost to acquire a customer goes up, their conversion rates go down, and their profits get squeezed because the most valuable, high-intent customers are no longer shopping around on the open market.
So the strategic goal for CMP and HOUS is to control that customer experience from end to end.
Right, effectively cutting out those digital middlemen.
So with the merger approved and closing this Friday, the market's focus now turns completely to execution. What are the key things we should be watching for that will tell us if this merger is actually working?
The first thing is the most immediate, the final closing confirmation. We just need that official word this Friday that all the final conditions are met and the new company is formalized.
And once that's done,
Then the single biggest thing to watch is the integration roadmap details. Investors are going to be poring over any specific measurable metrics that can prove that the synergy idea is real. We need to see the plan.
what parts of that roadmap will the market be most focused on?
First, the decisions on the combined technology stack. How fast will they pick a unified platform and roll it out? A bad choice or a slow, buggy rollout could really frustrate agents and wipe out any efficiency gains.
And they need to be held accountable for the financial promises they made.
Yes. The market needs to see specific cost synergy targets. They need hard numbers. For example, a commitment to cut $300 million in operational costs within 18 months. Without clear targets, the synergy argument is just a theory.
And maybe the most important measure of success for any brokerage merger: the people. Agent retention metrics.
This is the ultimate test. The value of a scaled brokerage is its agents. If agents from HOUS or even from the QMP side feel like they're being ignored, if their workflow is disrupted, or if they feel like local support is gone, they will leave.
Right.
High agent retention is the proof that the combined resources are working. High attrition is a signal of integration failure, and it means that scale advantage is eroding before they can even make money from it. The market will be watching those quarterly agent counts very, very closely.
And finally, we have to come back to where we started in the first section,
Yeah.
the regulatory side. We need to keep monitoring for any new headlines or actions from the DOJ or the FTC.
The merger itself is a done deal, but the chance of regulatory follow-up isn't zero. We have to watch if the FTC decides to review the combination of their other services, that vertical integration play we talked about, with a specific focus on bundling title and mortgage.
And if the government does decide that this new mega brokerage is using its market power unfairly to lock up those other service markets, what could happen?
In that case, the outcome could be anything from mandatory changes, like forcing agents to present a wider list of non-affiliated providers, to, potential structural changes. It's unlikely in the short term, but if you look at antitrust history in other industries, sometimes they force companies to sell off business lines that were seen as anti-competitive.
So any headline suggesting a formal investigation could bring volatility right back into the stock.
Immediately, it would inject long-term risk back into COMP and HOUS. The regulatory file is definitely not closed.
So when we take a step back and look at this whole event, what we're really seeing is the creation of this massive entity, COMP and HOUS, that's built for efficiency and market power. And that creation immediately puts a ton of competitive pressure on rivals like XPI and RMX, and it forces digital partners like Zillow, CoStar, AngiI, and Tree to figure out how to operate in a world where their biggest customers are now trying to cut them out of the deal.
The dynamic is clear. The new mega brokerage is focused on capturing the maximum value internally through efficiency and high attach rates on all their other services. And that fundamentally puts a squeeze on everyone else who makes money from the external flow of real estate transactions.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. This merger is happening at the same time as all this public debate and legal challenges around how real estate commissions are paid. Could the new scale and the drive for efficiency inside this COMP and HOUS entity be the force that finally changes the standard commission structures in the industry, regardless of what the regulators decide? It's a consolidation move that really demands a longer-term strategic look.
Indeed. We've laid out the landscape and the immediate pressure points.
Please remember that the information discussed today is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell any security. This is purely the opinion of the author. Thank you for joining us for Breaking News to Trading Moves.